how do you continue to learn and then becoming a much better leader?
Well, listening. And for a lot of us in sales, that's a tough skill to master. People have certainly given me advice, right?
Yeah.
But I think I've learned more from watching people and the way they treat people and the way they handle situations. I think I've learned more for being involved in those processes than any one discussion.
I will agree on that one. I think seeing how other leaders are behaving or not doing something good, or when they're doing something good, right? You have both sides.
Yes.
That's something, right? No, but that's where I'm like, oh my God, if I'm in that position or that's one day, I will not do that because...
Yes, you made a great point.
Right, yeah, no,
because when people say, what have you learned from your mentors? Well, I've learned from a lot of mentors what to do, but I've also learned from some definitely what not to do.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, your point is very good. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're all different, right? So we also need to communicate or receive that kind of information in different ways.
Do they comprehend what you're trying to tell them? Do they understand the game plan? Do they understand? And the other thing is, do they believe in the process, right? Yeah. And to me, it's two different conversations. That tells me that, whether you call it leadership or whatever, something I taught them meant something.
You're a good leader, right?
Forward. And that's leading in my mind. Anyone can manage. It's a different style to lead.
This episode is sponsored by Sega Electronics, a North American distributor of interconnect, power, and electromechanical products and a provider of custom solutions. With more than 135 years of innovation and service, Sega delivers quality components and trusted expertise through its distribution confidence business model. Headquartered in Middleborough, Massachusetts, Sega supports customers across North America with a network of sales representatives, power system engineers, and strategically located service centers. Their 2 distribution centers total over 268,000 square feet, along with a 47,000 square foot custom solution center in Texas, all designed to keep technology moving forward. Learn more at Sega.com. What if you could get real leadership tips from people actually working in the electronics industry, supply chain, and manufacturing? Every episode of Leadership Manufacturing Podcast brings you straight talk stories from leaders who know what it takes to motivate teams, solve problems, and deliver results when things get tough. I'm your host, Sannah Vinding. I'm a strategic leader with more than 20 years of experience in B2B marketing, product development, and building high-impact teams. I'm passionate about sharing practical strategies and tools that help professionals like you refine your leadership style and drive success. Follow the show, subscribe, join me on YouTube, and on the website, just search for Leadership in Manufacturing. Today's episode, we're diving into the leadership journey of Bruce Kellar. He's the Senior Vice President of Sales at Sega Electronics. With a career spent leading through change, Bruce had a front row seat to innovation from the early days of GPS to watching Bluetooth transform the way we communicate. He's guided sales teams across the country through disruptions, industry shift, and the evolving demands of customer. He's sharing why I believe is the bridge between strategy and success, how communication and listening build trust, and why adaptability and integrity are essential for leaders in the electronics industry. Get ready, enjoy the episode. Thanks for tuning in today to Leadership Manufacturing Podcast. I want to welcome Bruce Kellar to the show today. So I'm so excited to have you here today, Bruce.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I always want to start because I want to hear the passion in everybody I bring on to this show is, what's your passion about the electronics industry?
Oh, it's just, I feel so fortunate to be involved in this industry, really. I tell people all the time that I've been doing this for about 40 years now, and it's so exciting because I think we get a chance to see everything years in advance of what other people see. I was involved in GPS, before it came out and saw where that was going. I was involved in a lot of security issues before they were going.
Yeah.
Involved in, looking at automation and things like that. And you got such an opportunity to see the future before any of your friends knew what was coming or saw. I remember when Bluetooth was being introduced, and I thought, what a concept. You're going to be walking around with wireless communication. And I was trying to explain it to people, and they have no concept. So the things I've enjoyed about it is just seeing the future before everyone
Yeah.
sees it, and being part of that change, right?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I feel fortunate about, and I try and tell some of the young people that are coming into our business, this is not going away. We're involved in an industry that's just going to get stronger and stronger. You know, you
Yeah.
look at job reduction and everyone wants to increase efficiencies and those things. We're involved in everything that increases efficiencies.
Yeah.
So AI, et cetera, people talk about it taking jobs away. We're involved in everything that drives AI, right? So I hate to see people lose their job, but what I try and tell people, you're fortunate enough to be in an industry that we're part of that change,
Yeah.
and it's going to be secure for many years to come. So it's just been an exciting industry to be involved in.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. It's a little bit, sometimes it's like a hidden industry, which is weird, right? Because we all use the devices, right? Or the machines that's out there, but it's like what happens in between. it's like
Exactly,
it's like a little
exactly.
secret, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, we talked to some of the people in the industry when they were having a difficult time recruiting people into the industry, selling widgets, if you will, right? I said, well,
Yeah.
don't focus on the widgets, focus on what you're involved in and the changes you're part of,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and the fact that it's going to be a very secure business to be in for many years to come.
Yeah, yeah, that's so much. I'm so excited about it. Okay, let's jump in because we want to talk about leadership. So I want to hear, because with your career, right, at Sega Electronics, I want to hear what have changed over the last couple of years, or maybe looking even longer backwards, right? What have changed of how you're leading your team?
Well, I think the biggest changes are, keeping up with the customer and the demands of the customer and their needs, right? Because it changes. In the earlier days, before the internet, before a lot of the things that are going on today, customers were dependent upon us to deliver information, right? And to be the
Yeah,
resource of that information. It's true to a degree now, but they have access to so much more information than they used to, and speed of response has become such an important issue in conducting business today, right? So
yeah,
I think the biggest thing that's changed is certain things have changed as far as the way business is being conducted, but other things haven't changed, and that is just developing a relationship with someone, listening, and earning their trust and understanding how they want to conduct business, right? So
yeah.
the means of doing business is ever changing, and again, speed of response, access to information, all those things are important. But again, earning that trust and coming through for the customer, those basics never change, really.
Never
I don't
changed.
think.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're based on the West Coast, right? But the
Yes.
team is actually on the East Coast. So how do
Mhm.
you lead a team effectively when you're like based on different coasts?
Well, I'm the only corporate employee on the West Coast, and the way that came about is, Sager had no presence west of Texas in 1996 when I joined the company. My job was to kind of get them going out here, right? So, fortunately, we became a big portion of the company, and they asked me to, take over for the whole corporation. And at the time, the decision was made: you stay out west because all of Sager's management was East Coast born and raised, right? That's where
Yeah.
Sager started. So I became their face in the West, and then eventually over the entire company. But so much has changed that we're truly a national company now, right? Once we expanded out west, we have management, salespeople, et cetera, across the entire country. So we're really a national company. The infrastructure from a corporate standpoint is back east. So
Yeah.
for the first 15 years in the job, I went back east a week a month just to stay in tune with what was going on at corporate. And then when COVID hit, we discovered Teams actually did work. So I went back a little less often, and we used Teams to
Yeah.
that advantage a lot more. But the
Yeah.
reality of it is, we have infrastructure across the whole United States, and most of the people I deal with aren't just in the East Coast. They're spread pretty far across the U.S. So a lot of the travel is, to locations, etc. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but we're in the process also of moving our warehouse, as well as we have a custom solution business in Texas. So the East Coast now will be corporate infrastructure, but our inventory, our custom solutions, and the majority of our business, the way we service customers, will now be in Texas. And I'm
Yeah.
usually there once or twice a month.
Oh, nice, nice. But then in the meantime, right, when you are on team calls, right, or maybe an old-fashioned just a phone call, right, where you don't have a face you look at, what have changed? Is it communication, or is there anything that has evolved when you look at yourself, right, and saying, yeah, actually, then maybe since COVID, this is some of my new habits that have changed because this is just the new way of communicating.
Well, COVID brought such a lot of changes, and I don't know if we'll get into that later or not, but COVID changed the way a lot of people do business in that you had to become much more efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, both from a supplier standpoint and a customer standpoint, people that still haven't returned to the office all the way, right?
Oh, yeah.
And in some cases, with some of our suppliers, people actually moved out of the state they resided in when COVID started. And we have engineers that maybe don't reside, in the state where you're designing product in. So you've
Yeah.
had to become much more efficient in exchanging information and also the value of time. You better
Yeah.
bring value to the discussions and to your meetings, or you're not going to have many of them, right? So you better be darn sure you're creating value as opposed to just a social call
Yeah.
these days. So I think it's having an agenda, understanding what you want to accomplish on a call, and then structuring the call so everyone gets value from the call, for lack of
Yeah.
a better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's totally right. Right. And I think you can always look at yourself as well, right? Because if somebody's cold calling you or if it's an email and they want to say, hey, we should talk, you're like, okay, show me the value first, right? Before I actually spend, even if it's 15 minutes, it's a break in your daily habit for them either to do a sales pitch, right? Where you're like,
Yes.
yeah, okay, let me just think about this.
Yeah, and coming from sales, you always want to give people the time, but if there's no value into what they're saying, we're all so busy now, everyone's trying to do more with less, right? And
Yeah.
there's a compression of time to get things done. So you really have to respect the value of people's time and
Yeah.
giving them something that's of value to them if you're going to take their time up.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So there's also like you have your sales targets, right? But you also have like growing the business long term. How do you navigate that you actually are successful in both? It's the big,
Well, that's always a challenge, right? And
yeah,
year to
right.
year it's different, but I think I would break that down two ways. One is tactical. So we have a business plan. We have a strategy. We have a way we go to market, right? So
Yeah,
I think the thing there is, have we properly explained it to our team? Have we listened to their feedback? Have we provided the tools for them to execute the strategy that we've laid out? And do they believe in it? Because it all comes in the beginning of them believing in the strategy and believing they can be successful with the strategy we've implemented, right? So
yeah,
I think it starts out with communicating the strategy, answering questions and getting them confident in that strategy, and then giving them tools to implement that strategy, and then setting up a cadence to measure the progress within that strategy. The other part of it to me is strategic. So this is our strategy today, this is our game plan today, but where's the business going? Where's the industry going? And we'll talk about it, I think, the way we pivoted a little bit into the power products, but
yeah,
you know our tactics today are good, but where is the industry going, and how do we make ourselves be a bigger part of that growth industry, whether it be products, new industries you want to get involved in, new
yeah,
services you want to get involved in. So I break it down to the tactical of today's execution, and then the strategy to employ of how we want to get to where we want to go 3, 4, 5 years out, whatever the case may be. And
yeah.
our company's 138 years old, so we have a history of doing that along the way, for sure.
You know what you're doing. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good, right? I like that. But so again, it sounds simple, right? To say, yeah, then we just give the plan, right? And show, what it is and to everybody like in sales or everybody in the organization. But it's not everybody who understand the same way, even if you communicate on a slide deck or a Teams call, right? Or if you have the meeting in person. What's some of your advice? Because I'm pretty sure we're all different, right? So we also need to communicate or receive that kind of information in different ways. So what's your secret on giving it, making sure, that it actually hits the right message?
To a broad sales team? You
Yeah.
mean to the entire? Well, I think it's communication, right? So you can sometimes tell when you're communicating with someone two things. One is, do they understand? Do they comprehend what you're trying to tell them? Do they understand the game plan? Do they understand? And the other thing is, do they believe in the
Yeah.
process, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it's two different conversations. If they're having difficulty understanding, I think you have to talk to them about, what part of this are you struggling with? And in distribution, it's interesting too, in that we hire people that come from many backgrounds. So we may hire an individual that's has a deep understanding of interconnect because that's their background, or
Yeah.
a deep interconnecting of power supplies because it's their background. So we've developed tools because people sell what they're comfortable with. We've developed tools that educate them on the different products on our line card so that we'll increase that comfort level, right? And
Yeah.
then the other part of it is if they don't buy in, I think you have to communicate and say, what part of this are you struggling with? Because you can't sell if you don't believe in what you're selling, the process, whether it be the product, the company, whatever. So how do we break those barriers down, right? And how do we get you both comfortable and confident in what you're doing, right? And I think sometimes that takes listening as well. Hey, I've tried this, or I'm going here, but what you're telling me doesn't seem to be working, right? So and sometimes it's getting in the car and riding with the people and letting them see the different variations of how you would do it yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a learning experience and a good exchange as well.
Yeah. I like that. I like the one where you're saying it's also the belief. I think that's really strong, right? Because that actually show who they are as an individual as well. And if they don't believe, right, it's a longer road.
Well, I think
journey.
the position you want to be in, hopefully, is you would never ask someone to do something you wouldn't do yourself, right? So if I believe in this process, and I also think with management, and we have many managers across the country, the managers that are excited by the process, when the employees see that, they get excited as well. And when they see the success of their peers or the management or something that's going on, they want to know. People are competitive. How do I get in on that? What are you doing? How can I be more successful?
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. So talking a little about, I want to go back a bit with leadership as well. How do you continue to learn and then becoming a much better leader?
Well, listening. And for a lot of us in sales, that's a tough skill to master.
Yeah.
And I think, what I've always tried to do since I started in this business is try to better myself every day. So when I got into sales, I was a very young guy, and I would make a sales call, and then I would go back out to my car and say, okay, what went right and what didn't go right, right?
Yeah.
And I would try and educate myself by buying books on sales or gathering all the information data I could and just analyzing, how did this go? How did this not go? How can I take what I've learned and try and implement that to be better, right? And when technology came into play, I'm of the age that, there was no Excel or anything when I was growing up. So I went and took a class in Excel at community college because I thought, if this is the way people want to do business, I'm going to need to learn to do this business. And the company is, we've hired a lot of people and we provide that training for our employees, but it didn't exist at that time. But I think the biggest way I've tried to continue to learn is be aware of what's going on around me, try and stay in touch with technology, where things are going, try and listen to the customers and where technology is going and how they want to do business, right? And then adapt and try and learn how to fit within that scheme to best service the customers and our suppliers.
Yeah. Yeah, because they are evolving as well, right? And learning and becoming, the best in class in where they are. So
and that's really the struggle. I mean, even as we build out our business, you want to be all those things to a customer, but you also want to align yourself with suppliers that have the ability to keep up with the technology as well.
Yeah. Quick pause. If you're enjoying the conversation and picking up new leadership tips, go hit that follow button. Please, just one click. And if you want more, come hang out with us on YouTube. There's a lot more leadership tips. Just search for leadership in manufacturing. Back to the show. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about leadership. I'm not letting you go here. So how do you know if you are a good leader?
Well, I think for me, it's always been, am I able to take people to the next level of success and watch them grow in their career and watch them succeed? That for me is a measurement of success, because you can pound things to anyone, right? If you push a string, it bunches up into a corner. If you pull a string, it follows you. And I think if you can teach people how to be successful and see them grow in their career, the rest usually takes care of itself. They'll turn in good numbers. They'll attract good people to your company. And I think if you create an environment that people are excited by what you're doing and they want to be a part of what you're doing, and you give them the ability to get ahead themselves, then the thing kind of feeds on itself and things get better. That's not sure that that's the right answer for everyone.
No, I think it's I love to hear the different answers, right? Because there's not one answer that's like, oh, that's it. Let's put, 2 lines under it, right?
And of course, part of that is, living up to the goals and expectations that your company has set for you, right? To me, that's a given. But how do you get there? That's the other part of it. How do you lead people to get there? And to me, it's always been a case of trying to motivate, educate, and teach people how to be better at what they do. And I think you teach people to be more successful, um, then they want to be part of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's leading in my mind. Anyone can manage. It's a different style to lead.
It is, right? And also I think being a mentor is also a big piece, even though maybe you're not using the word mentor,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that, yeah, like you are in front of that person or next to it, right? To that person and guiding and helping. And it's always a two-way street, because I think if you're mentoring, there's sometimes where you're like, oh my God, I didn't know that part, right? And then it's actually, yeah, it's going both ways.
Well, and sometimes it sounds maybe overly simple, but sometimes it's just talking to the individual. Where do you
Yeah,
want to go? What do you want to do? What are your aspirations to get? Some inside salespeople say, I want to get into field sales. Okay, well, let's talk about that and what you have to do to get there, right? Other
yeah,
people go, I'm good, but I want to build my sales from X to Y. Here's the tools we can help you to build from X to Y, right? Are you utilizing all these tools? And in many cases, they're not,
yeah,
right? And in
yeah,
some cases, honestly, with people that have been doing this for a long time, they're hesitant to get involved in technology and things that will help them improve their throughput, which will also help them get ahead, right? So,
yeah.
in a lot of cases, the leadership is just understanding the individual and where they want to go, and how do you help them get where they want to go while meeting your company's goals and objectives.
Yeah. What about all? There's been so much disruption, right? And whatever it is, right? Is if it's COVID or anything that's happening, right? In
Tariffs,
distribution, yeah, anything, right?
yeah.
Um, it's not like we can sit and say, oh yeah, next year nothing is going to happen. There will be something, right? So how do you, if you have like a new leader that's just in this, or new talent that's in the electronics industry, what kind of advice would you give this person? Because how do you get ready or stay
Well,
ready or staying on
you
top
know,
of it?
I don't know that you can ever get ready for some of the things that have happened. In
Yeah.
other words, I don't think there's anyone that saw this pandemic coming, right? And
No.
it was new chartered
Yeah.
territory. And it's funny because some of the younger people in the company, when I've come and I say, well, in normal times, and they say, but I don't know what normal times
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah.
In other words, I don't have the
Yeah.
years of experience that you do. I came into this in times that were not normal, and I'm still trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing, and what we try to do as a company, is don't overreact, right? When change like that occurs, it's very easy to get nervous, to either withdraw or overreact or whatever the case is. My opinion is, hey, let's understand what's going on. Let's do everything we can to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And let's take all that information in and make educated decisions, right?
Yeah.
And then communicate those decisions to the people that work for you, so they understand, here's the issue. Here's the decisions we've made to confront this issue. Here's why we think these decisions are the best to confront this issue in our situation. Because if you give them, it maybe takes the fear away a little bit, and then gives them a little bit of confidence that they have a clear understanding and a go forward position,
Yeah.
right? So many people reacted so quickly, and when you react too quickly, you can move in the wrong direction, right? And in my mind, things like that, things have a way of settling in once
Yeah.
they get going. So I don't think you want to wait too long, but I do think you want to take the time to really understand and assess the situation, know what your suppliers are doing, know what your customers' expectations are, understand everything, then put together a plan that you can communicate to the team to get them confident in facing whatever we're faced with. And then the other part of that is, tariffs, for example, they changed every day. They've changed
Yeah.
every week, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have the basis of what you want to do, but you have to be willing to pivot
Yeah.
and move as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And be able to scale, right? Whatever
Yes.
you need to do in that certain situation. So
But I think my biggest issue is don't overreact, but educate yourself to the best of the ability, develop a plan, and then communicate the plan to the team and continue to communicate the plan
yeah.
to the team.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you can feel like, oh, I'm over communicating, right? I already told this. But it's important, right? You need to repeat at a certain time so you can actually get the message out there to
Absolutely,
everyone.
because different people learn at different levels, right?
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
get it right away, and
Yeah.
some people, and that's why I think it's important not to just tell them what we're doing, but tell them why, so
Yeah.
they can gain a better understanding in their communication with their customers if they're asked. They're not just repeating something they heard; they truly understand the
Yeah.
reasoning behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also important, right? When you have this kind of communication, that you are ready to answer all the questions. And hopefully somebody will ask you questions, right? It's not just like that silent wall where you're like, hello, right? Is anybody out
Yeah,
there? You want to have that dialogue going.
Yeah, we've been fortunate through the tariff thing. We got involved very early on. I'll give our marketing team a lot of credit. They put a lot of time and energy into providing information and data and putting things on websites that we could communicate to customers, and again, give our team tools to use to
Yeah.
explain part of the process. And we've had a number of customers compliment us on our ability to communicate through those times because they
Nice.
were very confused as well.
Yeah. 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 And it's all about talking about that elephant in the room, right? And then take it from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. How big
Yeah.
it is.
Well, certain things like the pandemic, none of us could control it, and
No.
nor did we really know.
Yeah.
Honestly, when we sent people home, I thought they'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Year and a half later, everyone's still working out of their
Yeah.
house. That
It's
I have
wild.
to say took me by surprise as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like certain times, right, in your life where you remember where you were at that
Mhm.
certain time when something happens. And
Yes.
we'll remember that day.
Yeah. Yes.
Where we were, right? So
Yeah.
okay, I wanna hear about with your leadership. If you look at anybody who gave you a really good advice, what advice do you remember and saying that was a really good advice I got back then?
Well, I think it's advice, but to me, it's also been actions that people have taken, right? Like I tell the story, I had a manager early in my career that was very, anytime I had questions about the industry or products within the industry, he always stopped and took the time to explain to me, right? And
Yeah.
when I got in the field, I remember we had a situation where we shut a customer down, right? And I was a young sales guy. And when I went in and we let the customer down, this wasn't at Sager, this was a previous employer. And, I had to tell them, yeah, your parts are not going to be in today. The guy literally grabbed me, marched me in front of his production crew and said, all of you are going home today because this guy couldn't get you your parts. It's a
Oh,
pretty sobering feeling when you see 40 something people,
yeah.
giving you a dirty look because they're going home.
Yeah.
And, so I left and I talked to my boss that day, and he said, how'd it go? And I said, well, this is what happened. He said, you know what? Are you still in that area? I said, yeah. He said, I want you to meet me there in about an hour. And we went in and he got a hold of the purchasing manager and said, hey, I just want you to know this is me. And you should have marched me in front of those people, not this guy.
Wow.
Because this guy has done everything he could do
Yeah.
to get you your parts and
Oh.
I let him down. And so if you got a problem with anyone, it's me, not him. And I'm not going to let him accept it. And I thought, hey, this guy didn't need to do that, right?
Oh, I'm getting
So
goosebumps just by that story.
and I remember looking at him and I thought,
Yeah.
that's the way I want to treat the people that work for me.
Yeah.
Because I worked harder for that man ever since that day, right?
Yeah.
And so I think over my career, people have certainly given me advice, right?
Yeah.
But I think I've learned more from watching people and the
Yeah.
way they treat people and the way they handle situations. I think I've learned more for being involved in those processes than
Yeah.
any one discussion.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. I will agree on that one. I think seeing how other leaders are behaving or not doing something good, or when they're doing something good, right? You have both sides.
Yes.
That's something, yeah, right. No, but that's where I'm like, oh my God, if I'm in that position or that's one day, I will not do that because
Yes. You made a great point.
right. Yeah. No,
Yeah, because when
yeah.
people say, what have you learned from your mentors? Well, I've learned from a lot of mentors what to do, but I've also learned from some definitely what not to do.
To do.
So,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
your point is very good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think everybody is a leader, right? No matter what title you have, you are a leader. So you also have to remember people are watching you, or employees, right? Or teams, or the company is watching you of how you are behaving. So
Yes.
it's an important to be the right leader.
One of the biggest rewards that I've had is people that call me and say, "Hey, remember when you taught me this?" And I say, "Yeah, I remember." And a guy called me the other day, it was some 20 years ago. I hadn't talked to the guy in 5 years. He
Yeah.
owned his own business. He said, "I just sat down my entire team and basically gave him the same presentation you gave us, years and years ago."
Yeah.
That makes you feel good, right?
Oh,
They
nice.
said that
Yeah.
stuck with me, and I think it's
Yeah.
still relevant. And I just gave that presentation, or
Yeah.
you taught me this and I just did this based upon
Yeah.
what you taught me. That tells me that, whether you call it leadership or whatever, something I taught them meant
So
something
you're a
to
good
them that they
leader, right?
carried forward. Yeah.
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 See.
Yeah.
Wow. No, it's always, I think it's so also like when somebody do call you, right? Or will email you or just contact you and tell you that. Because everything is going so fast, I think, in the world right now. But to somebody actually stop and saying, hey, actually, I want to do this. It's so appreciated. And the way you're receiving it and just the feeling you have, right, in your whole body and how proud you are, is so important that we remember to do these kind of things.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that struck home to me in some of these situations is something that didn't seem to be that big of an issue to me was meaningful enough to them that 5 years later they reach out to you, and I think, wow, I didn't even realize that was that big of a deal, right? I think, like you said, if you try and do your best every day in leading people and treating them right and trying to teach them to be better at what they do, it all usually works out.
Yeah. It's a good one. Okay, I have the last question, Bruce. So if you can go back in time, 10 years, 20 years, you decide, right? What kind of advice would you give yourself?
Well, I think the advice that I would give myself is always listen, right? Because that was a skill that I wanted so badly to do that I didn't always take time to listen and understand. So take time to listen, take time to understand. I think I had this even back then, but if you do always what's right, it will always come back to you in the right way. I think I had that anyway, but that is sound advice I'd still live by today because I've seen a lot of people cut corners and it ends up not working out so well for them in the long run, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you get up every day and just truly do the best job you know how to do every day and treat people the way, I mean, it sounds like golden rule stuff, but to me, that is the way I try and live my life is try to treat people the way I want to be treated. Try and if you're in a position to help someone, to try and help teach them and help them better themselves. So, and I think also, honestly, I didn't set out to get involved in the electronics industry, but I was very lucky to get in it because it's been a growth industry since the day I've been in it, and there's been plenty of opportunity for growth. And I think was a blessing that came to me, not planned at all. You know?
I like it. I also like just what we also talked about, or you talked about it, right? Is that the behavior, right? And the belief. That's a big piece of it. And I don't think I've heard anybody saying the believe with the word there. So I learned something new from you. I love it. It's great. No, that's why it's doing it, right? So thank you so much, Bruce. This was amazing to learn about leadership and your experience. I think there's a lot of the listeners that will learn a lot from this conversation.
Well, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.
Today's episode is brought to you by Saker Electronics. For more than 135 years, Saker has been helping connecting technology and people. They are a trusted North American distributor of interconnect, power, and electromechanical products, and they also offer custom solutions to meet unique needs. With a reputation for quality innovation and customer service, Saker delivers the confidence that technology will work when it matters the most. Learn more at saker.com. Thanks again for listening to this episode. I appreciate so much that you're here. And we are doing so awesome on YouTube. We have over 150,000 views. So be sure to follow us on YouTube, on the YouTube channel called Leadership Manufacturing. And of course, you should sign up for the newsletters as well, right? Because you want to stay in the loop when we have a new episode that comes out or when we actually are sharing some leadership tips. So again, go to leadershipmanufacturing.com, sign up today. And thank you so much for staying and listening to everything, the full episode. And remember, stay curious, keep learning. See you next time.